a good friend is the one who wants to have the honor to get in the mud with you.
Mhm.
And if you don't let him in the mud, you deny him the honor. I'm like, there's times when you just like it's an honor to have those close friends and to get in the mud and to share the mud and to work through the mud and to work through the pits and to crawl into the pit and get both of you out of the pit together. Don't deny people that. They're out there, but it takes a little bit of work to find.
Welcome to the Skilled Dad Podcast. This is the podcast for dads of all seasons to learn the things that they can do and engage so that they can go and equip the next generation for success. Here we sit down with everyday dads just like you to learn from their story, get inspired, and then start getting after it. So we invite you to join in, see what you can take away from this story, and apply to your life on your journey to becoming the Skilled Dad. Hey guys, and welcome to the SkilledDad Podcast. My name's Zach Reeser. I'm your host, and tonight, the first returner. Bryan, you're the first returner to the podcast. Bryan Graf, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to see you. For those that are listening, I get to see him. You don't, but hopefully you'll be able to watch him and say hello on YouTube. But Bryan was on, like, when we first started, and can you believe, man? Like that was 2 years ago, over 2 years ago at this point, where we actually sat down, and it was like 2 years and 1 month ago.
Nope, don't believe it. 2 years doesn't make sense.
It was fast, like
Yeah.
way too fast. And we've already gone up like levels in sports U leagues. And since that happened, 2 years is way too fast, but
Yeah.
here we are
Our
again.
our dad skills have just grown exponentially in 2 years.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that some of them have, and with all the conversations that we've had over the last couple of years between both us and other dads, at least the knowledge is there. Now some of the application needs to step it up in some
I s
cases for me. That's a me problem, not you.
and I said skills because I think between the 2 of us, there's probably 1 skill each that's improved, so that is now plural,
Well, see,
skills.
that's the genius of it, though. It's if both of you are different, then one of you is not, or I'm sorry, I totally screwed it up. If both of you,
Close.
if both of you are the same, then one of you is not needed.
Yes.
That's the beauty of it. Yeah. So everyone that's joining and listening to we're just having fun tonight, and we are recording at night because the kids are in bed. We've got the time. We've been talking about it, and actually this is part due. We tried the first time and didn't work out. It was my fault because it was stinking cold. And this particular studio, this is not the treehouse studio where I am, is this little studio I've got in my garage. And during a polar vortex in Tennessee, it was just cold, and I was a baby, and I was like, yeah, can we not? But hey guys, it's still cold. So if you're watching, that's where the beanie comes from. And I'm taking my hunting skills, and I've got hand warmers like laced throughout my body, probably TMI, and on my ankles, because there's a little trick I learned in the old Colorado hunting days, which is don't take toe warmers and put them on your toes. You put them like right where your ankle bone is on the inside and your arteries running, so it warms up all your blood. So I'm good. I'm ready
Oh,
to
there
go.
you go.
Yeah,
There
have
you
you ever
go.
tried that?
Yeah, I'll just put 2 hand warmers in my boots and just go.
No. You just get it done. You're manly.
Yeah, I
More
just don't
manly than
stop.
me. I put
My
in
Colorado
strategic
hunt, it
places.
snowed, and I didn't have any snow boots, so I just had hand warmers. I just brought 2 extra to rotate them.
Now, next time,
Yeah, I'm gonna try the ankle.
where to place them. And so it's wintertime. Why not? So here, example, hand warmer. If you're looking, and for those that are listening, I'm going to try to like verbally interpretive dance this for you. Don't just put it like in your glove or in your hand. Same concept. You put it in your sleeve, right where your wrist is, like where your artery is on your wrist, and just tuck that bad boy in there. You're going to warm all the blood up that goes into your hand, and you're going to be sweating. So that one's free, guys.
Look at Zach's already teaching hard dad skills.
they go hand in hand, right? So that's one we can
Yeah.
teach on a podcast is put up there. You're gonna be sweating. I love it. I just learned it late in the game.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not wearing a beanie because it's cold. I'm wearing a beanie because my hair is out of control. So I'm trying to tame the beast.
Because it's the cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's just out on
January.
injury. I'm just letting the hair grow. I think it's been 5 months since a haircut. So yeah, it gets a little crazy. So I'm just
Do you have
laying
dreadlocks
it
under there?
down.
Are you hiding dreadlocks under there?
I wish I could get to dreadlocks. It's not that long.
Mm, that would
It's
be
just it's just at that awkward phase, dude. It's like a guy going through puberty. It's like my hair's at that phase, the puberty phase.
I don't yeah, I don't know. I guess I know what that looks like because some guys have full grown beards by the time they're in middle school. And either way, I'll take your word for it. You can show us like later, I guess.
It's all laid down
Awkward.
now, so it's good.
Okay. Okay. That's good. Thank you for that.
I've
And
tamed it.
maybe we should get a haircut at some point. So we're having a lot of fun, friendly banter. So here's one thing you probably don't know about Brian. So ever since we interviewed the podcast, and I might even back it up for anyone that didn't listen to that. You can go listen to the first one, see what we were like 2 years ago. But
Was it the
Brian,
first one?
what
Was it
first episode?
Yeah,
No, you were
it
like
was
number
like 5, right?
5 or 6. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're the SWAT dad episode.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can dive into that if you want. But if you've listened to several episodes, then you've heard the story about the guy that I randomly went up to in a coffee shop and said, "Hey man, I like the way you dad." And if you haven't heard that story, here's the story. I was sitting in a coffee shop in the outdoor patio zone and working on skilled dad stuff at the time and see this guy over there with his 3 kids and his wife. We talked about this last time actually, but I saw
Yeah.
2 and then the third one was like hiding from me. Eventually I saw the third one. But he had a Giants shirt on and they were just having a good time. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. I love seeing this. So I went up and I said, "Hey man, I like the way you dad." And then I proceeded to introduce myself and I said, "Hey, I've got this podcast I'm going to build, and if you ever want to sit down and talk with me, I'd love to talk to you about it." And so we chatted a little bit, and then he came back like 20 minutes later. We had some more discussion, and then I think we've talked. We have gaps here and there, but pretty much every week for the last 2 years.
Yeah, just about.
And Brian has been in the background, both supporting, encouraging, and help building and modeling a lot of what Skilled Dad has been, what it is, and where it's going. And when I talk a lot about getting guys that you can be real with and also be challenged by, that's what Brian's become to me. And we're like old days, we'd be like pen pals because you're in California and I'm in Nashville, but now we don't have to write cursive notes anymore. We can just hop on FaceTime or phone calls and text, which is
Yeah, which
great.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about a icebreaker. "Hey, I like the way you dad."
Yeah. It's super cheesy,
Definitely
but it still works. Like,
yeah, it
you
hits
know?
you different than somebody just coming up trying to start a conversation.
Well,
"I like the
okay.
way you dad."
What did you I don't know if I ever asked you this. And if I did, let's talk about it again. But what was your take when some random jabroni walks up to you in the coffee shop as you're hanging out with your family and says, "Hey man, I like the way you dad." Do you even remember? I know we're getting old, but
Yeah. No, I remember so my wife and I were coming out of just a mess of our that was a trip to, "Okay, we're gonna get back on the same page. We're stepping out of a mess."
mm,
And things were going really good on that trip. And you come up when we're dude, it's just I think it was like the morning, like a late morning, and
mhm.
we just happened to be in that downtown Franklin or somewhere.
Yeah, as the
And
factory in Franklin.
yeah. And my wife's, "Hey, I Googled this coffee shop. Let's go check it out." So it was all by chance. And then you come up as we're sitting out there and, "Hey, I like the way you did it." My first thought was, I've never been told that before. And if you would have seen the last 6 months that we've been coming out of, you wouldn't have been saying that.
Mm,
But I was like, that's cool because it's something I was definitely working on. And then you hand me this card, talk about a podcast. Like, that's pretty awesome. Like, a podcast sounds pretty cool. And then when I walked away, all the shops inside the factory my wife wanted to go through, and they're like little chic little shops, and I didn't really wanna go through it, so
You were afraid you're gonna spend all your money.
no, I knew
Yeah.
I was. So, I quickly got on my phone and looked at your website and read the whole thing and just looked at my wife and said, "Hey, go through anything you want, go through all the shops. I need to go talk to this dude again." I really like what everything it says on the website and, his idea of what this is about, so I'll go talk with him. Then we just sat down and it's been 2.5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. Uh,
I think I said, "I like it, here's my money," or something like that.
I missed the "here's my money" part.
Yeah, that's a good part then. That's a good thing you missed that.
Yeah. I'm still waiting on if there was yeah, you can send that check, but
I'm still waiting for money too.
okay, cool.
Live in
Well
California, they take it all.
well, yeah, a lot of the Californians have come and become my neighbors, so,
Yeah.
it works out. But yeah, it's a cool day, and you said it was by chance, and it was random, and and a lot of people that hear this might be like, "That's really strange," and I've told this story so many times only because here's where I think, like, the power of the story comes from, and whether it's by chance or not, I was in a zone where I had the opportunity to be talking to a lot of guys and really passionate about Skilled Dad, and even more so now just seeing some of the things that it's done for other guys, that the conversations I've had with other guys have done for other people that listen. And, that I was just, like, fired up. I was like, "Yes, I don't care." And I see that. And it normally, I think it would make others cringe pretty hardcore to think about doing that. But had I not put myself out there and done that, then I would have missed out on having a really great friend. And I guess maybe I'll just take that as a little side note. Put yourself out there, and at the end of the day, as long as you're not, like, super weird, well, I guess what I did is pretty weird, but you got somebody that's gonna think you're weird, and it's gonna be awkward, and then you'll probably never see them again. So put yourself out there, because at the end of the day, the status quo could be the exact same, and somebody just thinks that they met a weird person, or you could run into a new really good friend, a business opportunity, a whatever it could be. And I think that's the power of putting yourself out there and not going in like arrogant and stuff, but going confidently if you're genuine about it. And I was pretty stoked about what I saw, and I was like, "Hey, that's awesome. I want to encourage that." So I don't see all you guys, but something you said, Brian, that's interesting. I don't know if I've heard that in the same way before. Is if you had seen me 6 months prior, and I know I've had a couple of conversations where it wasn't exactly I like the way you dad, but it's like an icebreaker of some sort
Yeah.
that there's like this, "Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm that guy." Heck, I feel that way oftentimes just because 'cause we're all learning and got new faces, but I think even if you're maybe not that guy in your own mind, we immediately go to some of the failings. Don't miss out on the winnings, and or if you know what you haven't done well, you have the opportunity to then address those things and make them better going forward because you're always gonna be a dad.
Yeah, and we're
And
always not that guy.
small rant, sorry.
Everyone's not that guy. But if you can be that guy for what, 45-minute episode just to come on talk, even if it's about your failures or whatever, somebody's gonna learn. Somebody's gonna take something from it.
Yeah, we hope
But
so. Yeah.
backing up to you saying put yourself out there, I've talked to a lot of dads, a lot of friends that I'd say they're not good friends, but or like I don't know, close friends, best friends, whatever you want to call them. But there seems to be a overarching theme. Like you hit an age as a guy where I think especially once you have a family too, you just can't make friends. It's so hard. Like for the longest time I prayed. I remember I was just like, God, I don't want multiple friends. I just want one. Just give me one good friend. For the longest time, I thought I was one of the only people praying that prayer. And I run into my brother-in-law, we're having a talk, and he's, dude, I've been praying for one good friend. All I want's one. I
Mm,
talked to another guy and he's, dude, I just need one good friend. I'm like, we just get to this point where I don't know what it is, if everything sucks or we're just too busy with our work, our families, to where we can't put ourselves out there to go make friends. You don't have the time to go out and do all the stuff that maybe your single friend does or a buddy who's married with no kids can do. You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And I did get more than one friend after that prayer. Justin, who's not on camera, has been one of those dudes. He's
Yeah.
crying right now. That's why he's off camera. He's tearing
That's
up over
that's
that
what I was
comment.
gonna say. You lucked out. You got 1.5 friends. You can
Yeah.
choose who the half is, but
Yeah.
yeah, Justin needs the shout out. I don't even know. Can he even hear us? So,
Yeah. He's sitting right.
but can
Screens
he
here, cameras over here, and Justin's right over here crying his eyes out from that story.
give him a
Like
Kleenex?
he went and got a box of Kleenexes. He's blowing his nose and
But can
wiping
he
the
hear me now?
tears from
Like,
his eyes.
is he plugged
He
in or is he just only hearing
he's
one
not
side?
plugged in. He's only hearing my side.
So we can talk about everything. Okay, cool.
We could talk. You could say anything you want about Justin, and I'm just gonna say, yeah, Zach loves Justin too.
I'm gonna say a
And a
lot about him
huge
right now.
asset to this team.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a lot about Justin real quick because he's not on here. Yeah, so Justin's in the background here, and he's like the magic man with a lot of the audio and technical understanding and skill set. Super talented guy, and in over the course of, I'd say with Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably been like a year that the three of us, you guys obviously do a lot together. You're in the same town, like you guys are working together in a variety of things, and then I just happen to chime in from time to time. But it's probably been a year that the three of us have known each other now.
Yeah, I'd say a year. Would you say a
Yeah.
year, Justin? The three of us? You and I much longer. The trio. The what's the not the three
Three
amigos.
amigos.
Is it the three amigos I'm thinking of?
That's one of them. Musketeers.
Three Musketeers. That's what I'm thinking about.
Stooges. That might be.
Justin said three amigos better, so we're the three amigos. Yeah, Justin
Okay.
said a year.
Okay. The Three Stooges might be more
Yeah.
apropos.
It took him a while to say that he's trying to stop crying
It'll be okay.
from all the compliments.
What's so okay? Let me double tap then on the concept of being awkward and putting yourself out, and then also what you said. So, did you ever listen to that podcast that I was on with Cam Paul, Dad's Making a Difference podcast?
No, you didn't send it to me.
I didn't. Okay,
No. So I
yeah,
haven't got to listen to it yet.
I'll send it. So anybody that is listening, I had the opportunity to be on a podcast called Dad's Making a Difference. Gentleman named Cam Hall out in up in Canada, and he's the guy that you said was like the more fit, better looking version of me.
Yeah, the Canadian twin version of you. The
Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds version of you.
maybe. Well, that's I mean, Ryan's a handsome man, so that's a compliment to him. But Cam's doing some great stuff. Go check out his podcast. Dad's Making a Difference. I'm going to tag him in this. But just like a stellar guy, really cool guy. And I had him on here as well. After he invited me on his, I was like, "Hey, why don't you come over here?" We had a similar conversation though. And why is it that guys don't? I'd say it's guys more than ladies. I know it is, but why is that? And I don't know the answer per se. I have my own reasons and in my own observations, but I think to your point, as we start to carry more responsibility, like you have no kids, you got presumably more money, you can go where you want, or at least have some more freedom. Everyone's situation is a little bit different financially and everything, but you have less responsibility, you have a little less restraint. You maybe have your job, hopefully have your job going on, but then you have your first kid and things change a little bit, but you can still go do. It's like the three amigos now. Maybe a dog. Throw a dog in there if you're a cat person. God love you. But
Yeah, this show's not for you.
I'm just
Uh,
allergic to them. I got nothing against cats. I'm just allergic to them. But then you throw two on and your career's grown and you have more responsibility. And then you throw three, maybe stuff to two, whatever it is. I don't know if it's the responsibility mixed with all the other stuff in our head. And then also some self-consciousness that might roll in there. But also the sphere of who you like, the pool of candidates changes, I think,
oh,
too.
100%.
Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, is that fair to say? But if you're in high school, you got your built-in crew that you can at least a pool of candidates. If you're in college, you still have a pool of candidates. You get past that, it changes, and you have coworkers. Maybe you move to a new city. That's what Cam and I talked about, like hypermobility these days. You move to new cities. But I say all this to say it is difficult. I agree with you, but there are ways to mitigate that if that's
Yeah.
what you want. And I think it's important. Maybe we should talk about like why we think it's important. But just one quick story. I was at a birthday party the other day. I gave him this dad a SkilledDad sticker, um, which was actually a good icebreaker. But he made a
Represent.
comment to me. What's that?
Represent.
Yeah, man. If you want a SkilledDad sticker, DM me or something. I'll send one to you. But it was a birthday party, 23 kids at this, and I made a comment like, "That's a lot of kids." And this comment that stuck with me was, "Yeah, I can't remember the last time I had this many friends. I only have 3 friends." And I was like, "3? Get 3 close friends? That's fine." This is, like, in my mind because we talk about this quite a bit. And then the follow-up comment was, but I work with most of them, and I don't know if I'd actually hang out with them. So, I don't know." And I was just like, "Oh, it's like a gaping it's like an" maybe I'm taking it the wrong way. You're, like, openly admitting this thing to me, who I don't know as well. But I was like, "Dude, if you wanna talk to somebody, just holler at me. You wanna hang out a little bit? Let's hang out." But I hear that quite a bit, and you and I have talked about this concept where it's, man, being a dad, I like the way you dad, being a dad shouldn't be DIY.
No.
Oh, we DIY is cool. I love to build stuff. We're gonna talk more about that with Skilled Dad as we go forward, but being a dad should not be DIY. And I'm not talking about just your wife. I'm talking about other dudes, other guys, other men.
And I think that's why it changes. It's because when you have kids and you're looking for that wolf pack to build,
Wolf pack only. Find another chair.
it's no longer, "Hey, who do I wanna go hang out with and have a good time?" It's, "Who else do I want around my kids that's gonna be an example where they wanna be or not?"
That's
That
a
they
killer
become one.
point.
And I just had this conversation with a friend yesterday,
Huh.
and he told me he is very selective, like, now that his oldest is, I think, 10, a little bit older than my oldest who just turned 9. He's like, "I want families and couples, friends, men who are gonna be around me. They're also gonna be around my son, and I want good examples around my kid."
Yeah.
Not and we hang out when we can, and he's like, "You're that's not." I knew when he said it, that wasn't the reason why we didn't hang out more. Oh, there's a fire
Wait,
truck
was
going by.
was he saying that he likes you, but he doesn't want you to be around his kids?
Yeah, no, he was not saying that.
Okay.
He made it clear. We just, our schedules are so different because of my job. And work makes it hard too, but I think the big thing is that, like, you're looking for people to set that example
Mm,
for your kid, and whether it's good or bad, they're gonna be around your kid, and your kid's gonna pick it up.
yeah.
And I've shared with you that book. I think you own it. I've sent it to a few people, The Raising a Modern Day Knight, and you talked about
Mhm,
it's not DIY. Modern Day Knight, this guy and his 2 closest friends raised all of their sons as a team. And they
mhm.
would set if you don't have that book, Raising a Modern Day Knight, it's a shameless plug for that book.
Robert
If
Lewis, right?
yes, I wanna say yes. Shameless plug for that book. If you got I don't care. If you got a son under the roof of your house who hasn't moved out yet, that book's worth a read, just preparing him for the world. It's geared towards sons only, but there's other books out there that if you have daughters, I got 2 daughters and a son. I'm reading this specifically for my son because 'cause I'm making sure that no matter what the world does, I raise a man, and
Mhm.
when he leaves my house, he's ready to be a man, and not a man that the world defines, but a man that God defines. So, sh this kid's gonna be ready to go. When he takes the reins, he's gonna know that he is a man, and he's not gonna question it, and that's another thing. I think a lot of guys, when they get to a point of adulthood, they don't fully grasp, am I a man yet? Like, when do I hit manhood? Did I hit it? How long ago? Or am I in it now? Is this what makes me a man?
Mhm.
If you raise them, they don't have those questions.
Yeah. That would be a really good, I think, like, whole episode on that,
Yeah.
on what that is. In modern day, that's such a it shouldn't be, but it's such a challenging topic. But the I think that that shifted quite a long time ago on even the milestones, like with Raising Modern Day Night, there's several other books that lay out kind of the milestones to manhood, but the rituals have shifted, and
Yeah.
now it creates questions, and there's, like, studies about that and on some of the toll that creates for guys. But
Mhm.
back so we should take a side note and kinda annotate that for the future, but to the friend thing, I've not necessarily thought of it in that terms as far as one of the added bonus challenges of new friends is it's when you're let's say you move so I moved across country like 3 times. Yeah, 3. And then back again, like big circle. And even when I came back and I had friends locally, now you and your partner come as a package deal oftentimes. And so have you ever run into the zone where it's like you have to, like, find other couples too.
Mhm.
Like, you wanna find other couples, and then you run into the awkwardness where it's, maybe the the wives love each other, and but one out of the 4 is kind of a jabroni, and you just don't wanna be around that other couple, and you're like, "This is super awkward," but it's like, "Hey, I love the wife or I love the husband, but, ugh, do we really wanna go down that path?" I have had this conversation, so with other people, I know I'm not alone in it, but it's an added factor. It's to find that magic is can be a challenge, or maybe it is just me. I don't know. You ever
No. Like, I my wife definitely has some friends where I'm like, "That's great." And I've met the husbands, and they're great dudes. We don't jive, and
totally.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I'm okay with my wife having friends where I don't necessarily hang out with the husband all the
Mhm.
time, and I can be easily cordial and hang out with them when we do get together, but it's not as often as we would if we both had that couple friend. And I think that's a good thing for her to have her friends and me to have my friends, as long as we know each other's friends. But then to really dive into the relationship that we build with couple friends is even more important.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing is you got to be okay with, okay, this may not be like my favorite person to hang out with, but I love my wife and I'm gonna go in with my best foot forward and have a good time because this is one of her closest friends. And just because I don't jive with this husband to the point where we're going to be besties,
Yeah.
I can still hang out, have a good time, and make sure she has a great time and just enjoy myself and enjoy the fact that I'm around people I don't see that often.
Yeah. Yeah. And be as authentic you as you can be
Hmm.
on the first encounter. And that's one thing I'd throw out where I've learned from sometimes I'm probably that guy where they're like, yeah, Sonya, my wife, fantastic. Everyone loves my wife. She's amazing. But there's been occasions where it's like on the first round one, first impression, you're like, nah, this is not gonna jive. But then, you hang out again, and then either you or they start to open up more, and you find out who they really are, and you're like, "I totally read that wrong, and this is great." So, I guess the point of me saying that is don't always give up just on that first impression because people do different things on the first encounter. Some people are
Hmm.
just super nervous, some people are self-conscious. One big thing that I've run into with, you know, the conversation and experiences. What's the first thing that a guy typically asks you after he meets you? It's not a loaded question. I just want to see if it's the same one that I usually have.
Where do you work?
Hey man, what do you do? Where do you
Yep.
work? Like, well, that's like the identity is wrapped up in. And some of us at times maybe, eh, here's what I'm doing in this season,
Yeah.
but it's not who I am. And early on we talked about I don't really care what you do. I don't care what you do. I care who you are. So I don't know. I love
Dude,
what
I
I
think
do, but there's been times where I'm like, here's what I do.
I think we talked about that on our episode.
Oh well. 2 years later, it
Like,
rings a bell.
yeah, because I think it's around that time, like, I had just listened to someone else's podcast where they were talking about I think it's Australia, where nobody asks, like, "What do you do for work?" Because they don't care. They ask, like when they ask who you are in America, people "Oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a law enforcement officer, I'm a s" like, in sales, whatever, but, like, out in Australia, on the other side of the world, probably New Zealand, those areas is my guess, their response is their hobbies. They
Yeah.
talk about what they enjoy doing, and then what they do for work, they only do to fund what they enjoy, but that's the farthest thing that they talk about when they express who they are,
Mhm.
and to that's just such a Western culture, and especially being in law enforcement, I hated that my identity would get wrapped up in my job because I was like, "This is a fun job, but it's not who I am." Like, that's not being a cop doesn't define me. It's not everything about me. There's so much more. I just show up and go to work and I serve,
Right.
but yeah, it would get roped in a lot, and that would hinder me a lot from putting myself out there to talk to people. And now that I think about it, that was a big thing for me to just go back and sit down and talk with you. I was like, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't do this. All my training and stuff, I don't want to go talk to somebody. But I was like, no, there's something really into this
Oh, you didn't wanna talk to
podcast
me?
that I want to know. No, there my I mean, you could probably talk to anybody who's been a cop, and it's a lot for them to
Yeah.
step out and talk to somebody because they usually sit against a wall and we just read the room and then we just judge every other dude in that room.
Yeah.
And usually just go, yeah, not worth talking to. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what I've seen. You don't know what I've done.
Uh-huh.
But that day I was like, no, there's too much interest in what it looks like Zach's trying to do. I want to know more. That I didn't care.
I appreciate you taking the leap, and,
It was easy.
that's good. Yeah. I don't know that you would be alone in that. Actually, you said something about kind of the Western mindset of the identity being within the work for a lot of guys. That's how we identify ourselves. During COVID, especially, the identities changed a lot for people. A number of people that I see in LinkedIn and people even knew. But I've been a part of that for a number of years. Like that's who I was thing. And then things changed, jobs changed. But if you're in Australia, I know we have people we have pretty good group in Sweden, London, Australia, and Germany of listeners. I'd like, if anyone is open to it, I'd love for you to let me know what it's like there per what you just said about that's not necessarily the first thing forward, but let us know. That'd be great. DM me or shoot me an email. Hello at
Because
skilledad.com.
I hate when you alter that question and not, hey, where do you work? But it's like, hey, what do you like to do? And the first thing out of their mouth involves work and they dive into like their job. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like,
But and we're almost like trained on it.
ah,
Okay. Now that we've talked about the challenges of making friends as adults, and if you don't have any of those problems at all,
you're lying.
we'd also
I just
Brian's
talked to my dad and
Brian's
he's
calling
like,
you out, say,
yeah,
"You let me know what you've learned," so or maybe come on the podcast with me because I wanna learn. Like, you've learned something that I has not been an unlock for a lot of people, so we can learn from you. But what are some things that you've done that you've learned that have worked for you? And since you were saying a prayer about it, you had some unlocks on there, and I know you've got, a growing crew, but what are some things that you've done?
oh, dude, my crew is not growing. If it does grow, it's because I've leaned heavily on my wife and I've met some dads and friends through her. And it's that
Yeah.
same thing where I go into I'm like, I don't know. Like I put off meeting one guy because I just didn't know if I was gonna drive because there had been a few wives where the husbands I'd met where I'm like, yeah, great guy. We're our hobbies, our interests are just so opposite. I could sit and hang out with him for a dinner, for a hangout. If we do like a double date, no problem. It'd be fine. But calling to hang out one-on-one or like calling to grab a drink or a beer or coffee, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah.
And then I met one of my wife's friend's husbands named Mike, and I was like, "Why did I meet you earlier?"
Yeah.
So I still go into those pretty like open-handed, and maybe something's gonna come out of it, but I don't know if I've really been putting I've been trying to put myself out there more, which is weird. I don't know. I guess I'd call it practice, like almost how I'd have when I was a training officer and I'd be standing in line to get a cup of coffee or something, and my trainee was there. My trainee would have issues talking to people to gather information to take a report. I would tell him, "Hey, we get close to the front of the line if it's a long line. Hey, get to the back of the line. Talk to every person who is in front of you, behind you, whatever, and just do a casual conversation. Be a human being. That's all you have to do
Touch
in
us.
interviews." Yeah, I just need you to be used to talking to people while you're wearing this uniform because for some reason your mouth stopped working when you put on your uniform. So I picked that up and I just started practicing. If I was out somewhere at a store and it was 30 minutes outside where we normally are,
Mm-hmm.
and I see some guy in there, I'd just try and strike up a conversation. Something dumb. Just get used to talking. Maybe you learn something. Maybe you don't. Maybe you meet somebody cool. Maybe you don't. But I was like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. I'm not probably going to see this person again. Um, so I started doing that. Had some cool conversations with some people. I learned some crazy stuff. Like this one guy told me he's a pastor of a church, and right before he became a pastor, he was a dude who was out. I think he had just the last big crime he committed was grand theft auto of a vehicle and got in a high speed pursuit running from the cops and sat there, I think, while he was on probation after he had served his time and heard somebody talk about Jesus in a way he had never heard before, and then started volunteering, worked with the homeless, talked to them about how he had been homeless and was homeless at the time for so many years,
Mm.
and then kept working hard at the church, and then the church offered him a job, and then he went from that job to working into a ministry role, and then ministry role worked into going to school to be a pastor, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, it's insane. Never would have learned that. Just walked past this guy in a park and did the thing like, "Hey, see out here playing with your kid. Dude, looks like you're a pretty awesome dad. What's your story?" type deal.
Mm. Like, I like the way you dad.
Yeah, I tried to make my own line.
No,
So I didn't steal yours.
thank you. But it works. It
Yeah.
can, right? Okay, here's a quick like stat. I don't throw numbers out a lot, but I think they're helpful sometimes because I researched this a few weeks ago after talking to Cam, and then the conversation came up 3 more times. I'm like, how it feels is one thing, but what does the data say? What is actually out there? So 30 years ago, this is according to there's a Pew Research article, and then this is Survey Center on American Life. This is from 2021. So I know it's shifted since then, probably, but okay. So 30 years ago, a majority of men, majority being over 50%. So 55% reported having at least 6 close friends. Today, and this is where I've seen the most of today, the number has been cut in half. Slightly more than 1 in 4 men have 6 or more close friends today. It said, and then the other one from Pew Research said that 40% of men said they have 2 to 3 close friends. So, is that bad? I'm more interested about the other 60% that don't. But I think 2 or 3 close because the other thing is time. You mentioned earlier, but like, how much time do we have? So, there's breadth and depth. And so, when we're talking about making friends and close friends, I think there's a big difference between acquaintances and people that you can be cordial with and talk to when you see them, stuff like that. But then there's the close friends that know your stuff, can challenge you on it, can be there for you. And I'm sure you've heard this term, but who are your 2 a.m. friends? I think there's a country song about it probably somewhere, but who are your 2 a.m. friends? Have you heard that term before?
Yeah, we call it "Who's gonna help you bury your body?"
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that's Justin's so glad that he doesn't have headphones on right now.
Yeah. He just looked at me when I said that. because he knew. I'm like, I'd call you in the middle of an emergency. And I'd be to bury a body, but that's like as bad as it gets almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the that's the question. Like, who are your 2 a.m. friends, and who are the guys that when stuff gets really tough and you don't want to talk to your wife about it, or maybe it involves your wife, or just some challenging identity things because of work or whatever it is. Like, who are you going to talk to that you trust what they say, and you trust that by saying it to them, they're not going to disclose it, because that's what trust is. And who are your 2 a.m. friends? So if you don't have them, like, they're powerful to have them. Get 2 or 3.
Yeah.
I say go get it like you're gonna go buy some or something, but it takes work and it takes awkwardness. And if you're introverted, y'all can skewer me if you want, but I would just throw out there, like, being introverted and extroverted is how we recharge our batteries, not necessarily something that we need to use as an excuse to
I was just
not
gonna say that.
engage. So I just challenge you, don't use that as an excuse.
Just to
For some, it's
recharge.
easier. That's how you recharge. But for some people, it is easier to put yourself out there, but it can be harder to trust.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. Historically, I can talk to a lot of people, but who actually gets a lot of the trust? It's a small group.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Trust takes a lot, and it can be lost fast. But
Collected in drops and spilled in buckets. I heard that once
Mhm.
and it stuck with me.
I like that.
Yeah, you can use that one.
But I think the other thing is, like, you get to a point where and I feel like it's gotta be a lot of guys just don't wanna go do the small talk. But
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta wade into the waters of the small talk to get to somebody who you feel like, "Okay, I could just have the depth of conversation I need."
Mm-hmm.
'Cause, yeah, I'm at a point where I get so tired of just being at a place with people around and the talk is just so shallow, like surface level, and you don't get into the root of like, "How are you doing? Like, how's life treating you? Are you on a up? Are you on a down? How do we get you to the up? What's keeping you on the up?" Like, "What do you do for work? How's the weather? Oh, you've lived there before? That's great. What do you think?" It gets old, man, after so many times and doing it for so long. Dude, I just wanna get with a couple of people where it's, "Man, I've been waiting to just hang out to offload my trash, and then I've been waiting for." I was like, I think it was Simon Sinek was like, "Th a good friend is the one who wants to have the honor to get in the mud with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't let him in the mud, you deny him the honor." I'm like, There's times when you just like it's an honor to have those close friends and to get in the mud and to share the mud and to work through the mud and to work through the pits and to crawl into the pit and get both of you out of the pit together. Don't deny people that they're out there, but it takes a little bit of work to find them.
Mm-hmm. It can take a lot of work. So what are some of those things? So we've got the concept that it can be challenging. We understand some of the benefits. We haven't even hit all the benefits of it, but guys, like, isolation as a man, we're not made that way. It's not good for us. And it's also, you mentioned earlier, like, we want to have people around our kids that'll also be good examples. It's also not a good example to not have people around unless you want them to see that as normal too. It's a thing for them to be surrounded by other men that aren't you in a friend setting, to see what it looks like to have that positive, like, male friendship and bond that can happen. But so what are the practical tactical tips that somebody that's listening to this is, you're reading my mail, but so what do I do? What are some of those things? I have some ideas and some experiences that I've had that have worked, but I don't want to take over. So what do you think about that? What do we do?
Yeah, I think it varies person to person.
Hmm.
And
Put you on the spot a little bit.
yeah, but I think also that's what you have to do is if you feel like you have that, I'm going to call it a connection, whether guys want to hear that or not, but you have that connection with another guy where you're like, man, I feel like we could be pretty good friends. Sometimes you got to take that next step and be like, hey, I need somebody to talk to about some stuff I got to get off my chest. And if they're the guys, like I had a buddy I called and said, hey, I got to dump a whole bunch of stuff. He
Mhm.
was just, when and where you want to meet. Hopefully today, and I'll meet anywhere. He goes, cool. I'm right down the street from here. And I drove over there. I'm like, this dude was open to meeting, gave up time to do it, and was ready the moment I called. This guy's going to be a dude I want to keep around. Like,
Mm.
he's a guy I want to invest and be like, hey, I'm going to do the same for you if you ever need it. Sometimes you just have to take that step and see. Sometimes it's maybe just offloading a little bit. If it's somebody here, hey, I'm getting close to this person at work, offload a little bit. Nothing important, but something where like maybe it hits a thread of potential gossip, and see if it gets around the office. And if it
Mm.
does, hey, I don't trust that guy.
You're
You
spreading
know?
disinformation to see if he gets back to you, like counter
Yeah.
espionage.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
definitely.
All right.
And be like, all right, that's not the guy I want to ever go to for anything. Yeah, it's it's a step to the next level you got to take.
Yeah. So, have you ever read? I know you're a reader, which is good. A lot of people aren't. I am sometimes, but readers are readers, one of the two. Have you ever heard of the proximity principle by Ken Coleman?
Yeah, I haven't read it.
High level, good book. Go check it out. Ken's a great guy. High level, and I say that because I actually worked with him, so not just oh, yeah, he's a good guy. He is a good guy, but proximity principle essentially is if you want to be in a certain place, put yourself closer to those type of people. And so if you look at where you are now, you're within proximity of whoever you're. I think it's almost like a version of the spheres of influence piece, but taking it into account, like if you want to be closer to other people that have similar interests or other guys, go where they are or create a scenario where they can come to you. But at the end of the day, get within proximity of that. So that's just a high level piece. So if you're interested in mountain biking, then go on a limb and see if where you are, they've got a mountain biking club. So you guys in Des Moines are probably like, yeah,
What's the mountain?
yeah. Well, there's some hills in Des Moines. I'm not
I've driven through
slighting
Des
Des
Moines.
Moines.
There's nothing
There's
massive out there.
there's some hills. I grew up going there from time to time, but like
Call them hills.
if you're in Minot, North Dakota, number one, bundle up because it's stinking cold there. But there's no hills, so mountain biking is probably our thing. But whatever your thing is, I joke a little bit, but whatever your interest is, first sometimes we have to take an account, right? We have to look at ourselves. That's a hard thing. But look at what are my interests? Where are the areas that I'm already in? What's my proximity? Where is my circle now? And is that circle around people that there's a candidate pool? I don't mean to make it sound like a dating game, but is there a candidate pool to at least try out and explore? And then wherever that is, put yourself out there. If you have kids, you do have built-in candidate pools with sports. If you do sports, school, like there's built-in candidate pools there, and put yourself out there. Say hello. Start with the pleasantries, if you will, but then ask some different questions, like what Brian asks. Hey, man, like, I've asked this a few times, and it gets varied responses. But it's like, hey, what are you excited about right now? Yeah, I just met you, and so it can go some ways where it's. But I've never had anybody say I'm not excited about anything. Like it generates a conversation. So those are some like things that I have seen work that have worked for me. But if you're not interested in a certain thing, don't put yourself closer to that activity. Find out what you like. And F3, have you heard of F3? You
Yeah,
know,
my wife leads the female side of F3 out here.
what? I never knew that. You just
Yeah,
told me that.
there's a female side called Thea, and it's funny that you bring that up. She's like going for they call it queuing when you're in charge. I forget what the Q stands for when it's your workout, and the guys like that F3 do the same thing, I guess. She's leading like every workout next week to be the Q queen, but
Oh, yeah.
she she doesn't take it easy on anybody. It's like when she shows up, people are like, "Oh god." She's in incredible shape, and it's terrifying.
Yeah, she'll beat you up. I know that.
Yeah, with my injury right now, I told her today, I said, "Thanks for taking the reins and protecting the family."
She's gonna take advantage. She's gonna take
I was
advantage
like,
of you.
with my neck injury, I can't lift over 5 pounds, so I'm like, "Thanks for just being the the man in this relationship for this past 15 months.
We all thank her for that. So good thing she's gonna teach other people how to do it.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, F3.
no, yeah, but that's an example. One of my other buddies, he and I coached a lot of soccer together. He's actually been on this podcast, and he started going to it, and I looked into it, but I've just not gone. If you don't know anything about it, I'll give you the very high level. Go check it out. You can probably find it in your area, but it's focused on fitness. Clearly there's three parts of the F, so could have done better research here. But ultimately, here's like the outcome that my buddy Andrew had. You get up early in the morning, you go to a workout. Every workout is led by a different person each day. So there's inherent leadership pieces that a person can get. But what I like about it is you have a group of people that are willing to get up and go in the morning, which is hard enough. Like we're talking like 5:30 workouts, 6 a.m. If you're not used to that, can be a challenge in the cold, regardless of what the weather's. They show up and it's you just come as you are. So if you're not super fit, there's no shame in this. Like it's part of the code, it's part of the conduct. You understand that. When you go into somewhere and you don't have shared understanding of what the ground rules are, then I think that can make it more challenging. But just through this, it's guys of various ages, various fitness levels, but it's all going and it's working to become better and to challenge each other. And then there's relationships. So shared experiences build relationships. So put yourself in a place that you want to be better at or that you're interested in, and then put yourself out there by having the conversation and take it a level deeper because there's magic that happens. And then you will at times, I'm just going to throw it out. Then you start to get to a point where you've now met a bunch of people and you do have to decide, who do I want to invest time in, right? Do I want a large group of people, or do I want like that close group of 5 to 6, um, that are my posse, my troublemakers, my body barriers, you would say, right? But that's a
Yeah.
good problem to have. So let's start at the beginning, which is take count of ourselves, put ourselves in place that we want to be with other people that we think would fit that zone, and then put ourselves out there and see what happens. And then last thing I'll throw out is if you are a church goer, if you go to church, hopefully you've seen this. I know it can vary within churches, but finding a small group and hopefully you've got a men's group. And at the church I go to, we've had a 2-year, every Tuesday night men's group, and it started with 15 and then it grew to 20 something. And then it's split off in a couple different areas and it's grown back to 20. Then there's a Friday morning men's group. There's like 200 guys that are showing up now. It just started a few months ago. And it's intentional on how to meet people at your tables, and same deal. People are getting up, going to their thing. So if church isn't your thing, it is an opportunity in an area to meet other people. And if church is your thing, then if there's no men's group, hey, that means there's a job opening and an opportunity for somebody to raise their hand. If you're listening to this and you're this far into this episode, I believe in you. Go do it. And if you have trouble doing it, holler at Bryan and I, and maybe we can give some ideas, tips, or support for you. But
Yeah.
you'll find some magic that happens out of those things.
You said one thing, which I'm like, dude, that's like the best icebreaker. Kids are the best excuse to get into something or get out of something.
Mm,
And you better use it every chance you get. So it's like your kids playing basketball, soccer, baseball. You're sitting there, talk to some other dads. Just be like, yeah, dude, my son's number 2 out there. Who's your kid? Oh, yeah, okay. I see him. He's good too.
mm,
Start a conversation. And then if you really get bogged down in something, like, hey, man, I gotta go. Like my other kid over here needs dad. And then just bounce.
yeah.
But they're amazing icebreakers to get into stuff. Like it's how you can meet great people. It's how you can meet people that you maybe need to stay away from, but and know that, hey, my kid should hang out with your kid. But you learn
Yeah.
that from just breaking the ice.
Yeah. It's no different than a lot of other things. I think it's just more personal. But
Yeah.
One other area that I'm gonna throw out because it's like a little peeve of mine. I'm on rants tonight. It's good. Sports, kids sports. If your kids are in sports and you're in town, you're not traveling all the time for business. If you are, that's tough. I get that life. Um, man, if you can coach, go coach because a that is a built-in shared experience with some other guys that it's going to build some kind of relationship, and it's not always good. But man, if you're leading a group of 12 to 13 8-year olds in soccer or baseball. Like we had this last season for baseball, we had six total coaches, head coach and five assistant coaches. Some of the assistant coaches weren't there all the time because they did have job stuff, but we could trade off and it was great for the kids. But man, you can really make some good friends with that and go through something together and build something together. No better way. And a lot of the leagues need them. A lot of leagues need
Yeah.
guys to step up and coach, and if they don't have coaches, they cut teams. So then the
Yep.
kids miss out. It sucks.
Yeah,
Anyway,
and you make
coaching.
just dents into the relationship with your kids and the
Mhm.
impact. Like my kid's got a soccer game tomorrow and he won't be able to make it. And so he asked me to do it. I'm like, yeah, my son every day all week has been like, Dad, remember you're coaching this weekend? I'm like, yeah. He goes, good. Just making sure you remember. I'm like, he's pumped. I go and I watch his games all the time, but he is so excited that I'm going to coach this game that I'm like, okay. I told my wife my goal is to get into coaching and coach his teams or my daughter's teams, whatever they end up doing. And it's just affirmed it. I'm like, I got to do this. He's so excited. And it's just for one day. I'm like, he's not going to get favoritism and he knows it, but he's just like, yeah, you're going to be more a part of it.
That's
They just want to,
awesome. Yeah,
kids,
he's gonna love it.
your kids just want to do what you do and for you to be a part of what they do. That's
Yeah.
all they want. And I suck because I deny them that more times than I think I give it to them. But
Mhm.
when you give it to them, it's just like all the times you deny it just get wiped away, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Grinning with this crappy little grin just because 'cause I've coached like 6 seasons of 7 now of sports, and, yeah, my son does not get it easy. Like, I would think that he doesn't want me to coach, but my expectation level is higher. So I'm like, I have to check myself on that. But I just recorded an episode. This one might actually come out before that one comes out. Dr. Andrea Mata. She wrote a new book called The Number Two Parenting Book for Pooped Out Parents. It's she's hilarious. But she said something really cool, which is attention is the currency of your children. That's
Yeah.
the currency. And so that is super attention in something that they are wanting to do and that they love. And I'll tell you what, I guarantee that you're going to have at least one kid, if not half of that team, that do not have dads at home. And it's a single mom that is bringing her kid to baseball or to soccer, and they don't have a positive, consistent male role model in their life. And you signed up to be coach, and coaches make a big impact, and you have an opportunity to make a big impact in a positive way for a young man that eventually will be a grown man, and you can leave a lasting impression in a positive way.
Yeah.
So, for those that are listening, if you've made it this far along, I want to say thank you. I know there's many of you that have, I like to say tune in. I'm just going to keep saying it, tuned in from a lot of different places. And I don't know where you're listening to this, but if you didn't hear the small solo announcement that I did, feel free to go back and listen to it. But as we continue to go into this year, I'm pretty pumped because we're going to have more conversations like this, continue to do interviews and more of them with a lot of great people at the end of the day to have the ideas, concepts, and learnings from our own experiences that we can go and deploy, that we can learn from, we can test and iterate, find what works for us, and then deploy. But Brian has, like I mentioned earlier, Brian and Justin, but Brian specifically has been a big part of behind the scenes for the last couple of years. And as we go into 2024, we'll be coming more to the front of the scenes in a variety of different ways, just for conversations like this. and potentially even having some conversations of his own so that we can have the most impactful dialogues with other guys that we can and hopefully help expand those circles of friendships, help find more tips, and also just have some fun because sometimes all that heaviness that we carry that we talked about that sometimes holds us back from having those conversations and making those friend circles. We just need a little levity, and if we don't have the right people for it, then that can be hard. So just tune in here, and apparently, as you can see after this episode, you get a lot of levity with Brian and I. We're pretty comfortable with each other.
Yeah. And
Anything you want to say?
the more dads we get on the show, the more nuggets of wisdom get shared.
That's it. And Brian's gonna run our social because I suck at it.
I don't know. I don't have social media. This is the first I'm hearing of this.
That's a total. I just whiffed. I was just throwing it out to see what would happen. Didn't work out.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
No, all joking aside, yeah. Look for go. You can follow us on the socials at SkilledDad. It's pretty much, yeah. It's at SkilledDad pretty much everywhere. But at the end of the day, whatever we're doing, we're hoping to equip you, and we want to hear from you. We don't want people that just listen. If you want to just listen, that's fine. But we also looking for people that want to engage as we go into 2024. We're going to be hammering it pretty hard, see what kind of impact we can make because you're important and what you're doing is important. And if we don't do what we're supposed to do, which is help lead guide our family, the stakes are high and it goes both ways. And we're not only hurting ourselves, but we're potentially neglecting or hurting or just having people miss out on what we could bring to the table. And we want you to believe that you can bring your stuff to the table. So,
Yeah.
Brian, my man, thank you for joining me.
Good talk. Good talk.
We'll do it again. Guys, you made it this far into the podcast again. We're excited to have you. And we hope that you took something from our conversation and our jokes, as good as they all were. But seriously, that you found something that you can take and apply to your life on your journey to becoming the skilled dad. Come see us for more episodes. Look for some new things that are coming our way. We're just glad you're here. You're listening to The Skilled Dad.